Happy Saturday, everyone. Josh of Severe Weather. Hope you all are having a great weekend so far. It is laundry day, so I've busted out the lime green here. But no, in all seriousness, it's been a long week for a lot of us, a lot of severe weather. Today, we've got an enhanced risk for severe weather and more active weather coming in the next several days. It's been a very active August. We typically do not see such a large area of the US getting this kind of severe weather, but things are pretty busy, and there's not a whole lot of explanation other than that we're in transition. We're in an El Nino. Warmer than average waters are creating faster than average wind speeds over portions of the United States. Let's take a look at things here. And I'm going to share my screen with you and show you the area at risk for our best chance for severe weather. An enhanced risk basically from Ohio, Pennsylvania into New York. We've got very fast winds coming through this area aloft, and some daytime heating will likely fire off some storms. We've seen some active weather already out of this storm system. Here's a look at yesterday's active weather, and over 100 and actually really over 240 reports of severe weather yesterday across parts of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, as well as Missouri and Illinois, and even all the way back into Texas and New Mexico. So this storm system that has created all this severe weather is going to move east, and additional storms are going to fire up here. You can see there's a circulation right here near Lake Superior, and that is going to move eastward across Canada. And with daytime heating, winds aloft are going to speed up here and allow for storms to grow and to pick up some intensity and fierceness with them. So we are likely looking at some nasty weather later in the afternoon. I'm also watching an area that's right now moved through the St. Louis area into Illinois, some very heavy rain there. That is going to track south and eastward towards Tennessee this morning and into Alabama and lower Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi. Later on, we could see a flare up of storms. And then behind it, additional storms coming out of the monsoonal moisture here over the Four Corners region. As that moves eastward, you can already see a bit of a flare up here in southeast Colorado. That is going to turn into our next complex, which is going to track across the southern and central plains here tonight and produce some severe weather. Here's a look at the radar right now, and you can see the northeast is relatively quiet for the time being. But as we get through some daytime heating, we are going to see busier weather as we head into the afternoon hours. We are going to watch this storm complex. It has weakened some, but has brought some rough weather into the St. Louis area this morning. And that's going to move southeastward into Kentucky and then Tennessee and eventually Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. And then a wet morning here in the Four Corners region into Colorado. As that expands eastward here, more storms likely to occur here. And here's a look kind of at our upper level wind flow, and you can see here's the complex that's moving through Illinois this morning, but you can see winds aloft are picking up this afternoon over Pennsylvania and New York, even Ohio. And this is going to add some fuel to the fire here and lead to some faster moving storms, some of which could produce some tornadoes. We'll keep an eye on the southern stream feature here as it moves into Tennessee. I think it's going to lose some punch, but may try to regenerate some storms across parts of the deep south here towards the late afternoon and evening hours. And if that weren't enough, we've got more that's going to be moving in from the west, another upper level low moving into Minnesota here tomorrow night. Fast wind flow on the southern part of that trough here across Kentucky and Missouri and right into the Ohio River Valley here. So more active weather expected. And then take a look at Monday here. This could be another major outbreak of severe weather as it moves into Kentucky, southern Ohio and Indiana, Tennessee, and then into the mid-Atlantic region here later in the day on Monday. The NAM only goes out to 2 p.m., but this is likely to continue eastward, and we're likely going to see more active weather across this region. So we only really get a break between the next two systems. Here's today's outlook, and it is an enhanced risk from eastern Ohio into northwest Jersey, central New York, and much of northern and central Pennsylvania. We've got over 6 million folks that are in that enhanced risk for the time being. It could certainly change a little bit more, but Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, State College, Du Bois, Williamsport, sorry, I need more coffee. Binghamton and Warren, Ohio, are all in that enhanced risk. And then almost 50 million Americans are in a slight risk. Of course, a lot of that's going to be New York and maybe Philadelphia, but Columbus, Ohio, Nashville, Cleveland, Wichita, Woodward, Illinois, or Oklahoma. Yeah, I know it's Oklahoma. So a lot of people are going to be at risk for some severe weather and even a marginal risk surrounding that. So if you total up the area in a marginal risk and beyond, that is about 110 Americans, 110 million Americans. Good grief. I want to just hit reset here, but I'm going to keep going. So please forgive me, folks. Tomorrow, a slight risk, and that could get it upgraded here over parts of Kansas and Missouri, but we see about 15 million Americans in that slight risk area. Still, New England could have some rough weather, especially in the morning. Places like Boston, Portland, Maine, New Hampshire, all the way up to Caribou. And that, of course, will include parts of southeast Canada as well. Um, and then here comes the next system, storming through Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, northwestern Virginia, western Maryland, and southwestern parts of Pennsylvania during the day on Monday. And this area could certainly grow. And I would not be surprised if Monday we had an enhanced risk somewhere across this slight risk area, and that area expanded into parts of the I-95 corridor in the afternoon. So Monday could be another very busy day for us. We get a break Tuesday in the east. Wednesday, additional severe weather over Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, eastern North Dakota, and that's 5 days away, so still it could change. And then right now, the Storm Prediction Center does not see an enhanced or at least a slight risk yet once we get past Tuesday. Here's a look at today, and I'm going to zoom in and show you the enhanced risk area. And really, it's from southeast, or I should say the slight risk area is southeast Indiana over into southwest Vermont and western Connecticut. And here's the enhanced risk area. Taking a look at more of the parameters, we do see a 5% chance for tornadoes stretching across northern PA, basically north and along Interstate 80, and then up to Interstate 90, the New York State Thruway here, east of Buffalo, all the way over just to the west of Albany is in that 5% tornado risk. Even a 2% risk all the way down to places like Bridgeport, Clarksburg, Morgantown, even to Point Pleasant and Parkersburg, Athens, Ohio, just east of Columbus, all the way up to Cleveland. So this entire area could see a few tornadoes as the day wears on. A bigger area, though, of damaging winds expected here, 30% in that enhanced risk, 15% back across parts of Ohio and eastern Indiana, and also a 15% chance of severe wind over middle Tennessee, western Georgia, and northern and central parts of Alabama. Also, the hail threat extends from Missouri all the way over into eastern parts of New England, southern New Hampshire, even far southern Maine here as we get into the evening hours. And here's going to be a look at the NAM model for the Northeast. And you can see we are going to see a little bit of action this morning, but really the severe weather threat doesn't get going until we get to about, this is basically 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're starting to see storms firing up over central and upstate New York, and we're starting to see storms over western PA and north central Ohio. And I'm going to zoom in and show you guys state by state so you can see. The peak of the severe weather is going to be starting in eastern Ohio around 5, 6 o'clock. And then racing across Pennsylvania here this evening, we'll see storms out ahead of it, some discrete supercells to keep an eye on over parts of Jersey, eastern PA, central New York, even into the Hudson Valley. This is 7 o'clock this evening. And then as we get into tonight, we see these storms continuing on into New England. They should weaken at that point. But even tomorrow morning, keep an eye on things around Boston, right around 8 in the morning, 7, 8 in the morning, and then moving out to sea here beyond that. Quieter weather expected Sunday night for the most part. And then Monday, you can see here comes the beginning of the next one here, moving into Ohio. More on that coming in Monday's video. Here is a look at, you know what, let me skip past this for you, because was not going to be part of my presentation, but the NAM model here, and you can see we got hit this morning pretty good here in the St. Louis area. These storms are still continuing into southwestern Indiana and into Kentucky this morning. More storms popping up over eastern Indiana and northern and central Ohio this afternoon. This is 4 or 5 o'clock here. And so we're going to watch the southern area as it moves through Tennessee. It could start to flare up more storms over parts of northern Alabama, northwest Georgia, and to the south of the Nashville area, I believe, around 7 o'clock. But we're also watching this area here over Ohio and West Virginia early on this evening. Even some more storms tonight. And then we get a little bit of a break before the next complex races into Missouri and northern Arkansas here early tomorrow, continuing across the Mississippi around lunchtime, and then into Middle Tennessee and Kentucky in the afternoon. And if that wasn't enough, there's more. This is Sunday night. Storms moving through Kansas City into western and southern parts of Missouri overnight tomorrow night, and then towards St. Louis late tomorrow night. And then these storms are going to continue eastward. Behind this complex, additional development expected in the afternoon across this region here. The model stops at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central on Monday, but this area is going to be primed for more severe weather. If you take a look at the Cape here, this is the amount of storm fuel. You can see it's already rebuilding here up to over 3,000 joules per kilogram. So we've got storm fuel in place. We just need to get the dynamics to line up with it. And that, I think, does happen. Now, looking at the south, I did mention storms over Tennessee and Alabama and even Mississippi. This is 4 or 5 o'clock here and continuing into the early part of tonight into Georgia. I don't think we're going to see widespread severe weather, but if you're in Alabama, you know it doesn't have to be widespread for it to be severe. We certainly have seen that in the last several days. Maybe some more action here tomorrow into the Carolinas. And then as we head into Monday, a quiet start, but we're already going to see storms popping up early in the afternoon Monday across Georgia where they could be strong to severe. All right, let's look at the central United States here. And we had very busy weather yesterday. Things are quieting down for the moment, but more storms are going to get going here. And we could see a few tornadoes and very large hailstones over northeastern New Mexico, the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, southeast Colorado, and western Kansas. This area is no stranger to these kind of storms, but it's just been nonstop here this summer, I feel, and continuing eastward here. And we're going to see this turn into a complex and race across Kansas overnight and then Missouri tomorrow morning. Behind it, we've got additional development here, kind of a cold front that's swinging through Iowa, eastern parts of Nebraska, northern Kansas, all the way down into southern Colorado. And this is tomorrow around 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Central. And that continues eastward and turns into yet another potentially nasty complex of storms. We could have heavy rain tracking through central eastern Iowa late Sunday night into early Monday morning as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that to see if there could be a little bit of severe weather on the tail end of it. But that is going to be still off in the future a bit. Here's a look at today's weather across New York State. Showers and storms moving through Syracuse towards I-81 early this afternoon, 1, 2 o'clock. And then additional development behind it, supercell type storms, which could produce tornadoes around Syracuse, down to Binghamton here around 5, 6 o'clock, and even across neighboring parts of Ontario, Peterborough, Belleville, over to Kingston here. So we're going to keep an eye on these. They could be really nasty, moving southeastward pretty quickly towards Albany, eventually down towards Poughkeepsie this evening. And then things will quiet down here overnight, just a few leftover showers beyond that point. Taking a look at southern New England and New York State tri-state area, and we do see a round of showers and storms moving through early this afternoon. Keep an eye on it in Connecticut and western Massachusetts around 6. But then the main event gets in here later on towards the evening hours. This is 9 o'clock, and you can see things dropping south along I-90, and then additional storms crossing the Delaware around 11 p.m. tonight to midnight. And we may still see a little bit of severe weather overnight. So those of you that are revelers in New York City heading out to Times Square, you may get hit here before the 2 o'clock closing of everything. So keep an eye on that. Then these storms move eastward and should exit New England tomorrow morning after that. We could have a few more storms, though, that flare up with the instability here in the afternoon tomorrow, but I don't think they're going to be nearly as intense. Here's a look at Pennsylvania, and we can see that storms very quickly blossom over western PA here between 4 and 6 o'clock. And move eastward across the state this evening. They could still hold their own over eastern parts of PA when you get east of 81, Scranton down to Allentown. The northeast extension here could get hit between 10 and midnight. And then things are going to quiet down after that. Just a few pop-ups expected tomorrow, but nothing severe. More storms expected on Monday. Here's a look at Ohio, and I didn't want to leave you out in Ohio, even though you're kind of in between systems. Take a look at this afternoon. Some nasty looking storms here over northern and eastern parts of Ohio around mid-afternoon, continuing into the evening hours, moving east-southeastward, and then moving into parts of West Virginia here about 5, 6 o'clock. Wheeling could get hit, and then Parkersburg could get hit around 7, Morgantown as well, and then farther down along Interstate 77 here about 8 to 9 o'clock. And I'm sorry my map gets cut off. Not ignoring you in Charleston, promise me. Kanawha County certainly could get hit pretty hard here around 9, 10 o'clock, and then additional storms overnight. So it's going to be a stormy night across West Virginia and southern Ohio. We get a bit of a break here tomorrow, but then here comes the next wave moving in on Monday. Here's a look farther to the south over Kentucky and Tennessee. We are still going to be dealing with a complex that moves into the area this morning around Louisville around 9, 10 o'clock, Evansville, Indiana as well. It should weaken, though, but we may see some regeneration of storms behind it on the outflow. This is 4 or 5 o'clock. Keep an eye on these storms. The NAM has them in one place, other models in another, but certainly we could get hit this afternoon into the early part of tonight over Kentucky and then also over East Tennessee overnight tonight. Here's the next one. Moves into the area tomorrow morning and continues into the afternoon and intensifies in Middle Tennessee, Central Kentucky, and then eventually moving into East Tennessee and Eastern Kentucky and Southwestern Virginia here tomorrow evening. Some of these storms could be pretty nasty. And then we've got another wave moving in on Monday. Here's a look farther south, and this is where the forecast becomes more of a challenge. And you'll be able to see why. The 6Z model of the HRRR said nothing was going to happen. Now the 9Z model of the HRRR says storms are going to sneak down into Alabama, Georgia, and even Mississippi later on this afternoon, about 5, 6 o'clock. And some of them could be really nasty. So a very challenging forecast, but there is that slight risk in case something does hold together. I don't think it's really a tornado threat as much as a severe wind threat, but certainly we've got to keep an eye on this area. And then you can see all the storms originating in Missouri here. We're going to see a quieter weather pattern today, but here comes the next wave moving in this evening and especially overnight tonight, moving right along the same areas that Missouri has just been blasted all summer. And unfortunately, after the one complex this morning, we're not done. Another one comes in here late tonight, tomorrow morning, and then we get a break. And then here comes the next one tomorrow night, moving into Kansas City, Topeka, Olathe, Lawrence, Kansas here late tomorrow evening. And continuing overnight, heading down towards the I-44 corridor right around midnight. And this could still change by a few hours, but this is what the HRRR has been showing. So we are going to keep an eye on that for you all. Speaking of Kansas, we see more action here on the map moving into western Kansas here around 8 o'clock towards Liberal and Garden City, and then moving eastward towards Dodge City. These storms will be strengthening tonight. We have a low-level jet that's going to help enhance activity and wind speeds. And that will continue to push things through very quickly across Kansas, southeast Nebraska, in the northwest parts of Missouri here, with things quieting down in the morning tomorrow. But here comes the next wave, moving right on down from Nebraska late tomorrow afternoon towards Manhattan. First we take Manhattan, then we take Topeka, apparently. But that's going to be right around 6, 7 o'clock, then racing southeast, right along Interstate 35, around 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow night, and then leaving the area by Monday morning. Excuse me. Oklahoma, the Sooner State, where I was born, we are hot, but we're also going to be unsettled here. More severe weather in the forecast here. Take a look at the storms that pop up in southwestern Oklahoma this evening, and then more storms in the Panhandle are going to race across. That's the same goes for the Texas Panhandle as well. So a couple of waves here tonight, and then storms move out tomorrow morning, and then the next wave comes in tomorrow evening around the same time. And these storms tomorrow look to be pretty intense as well. So that is the severe weather outlook. I would love to spend more time on more places, but we're just not going to have enough time for that. I will talk about the tropics. While it is quiet in the Atlantic now, that certainly does look like it could change. The Pacific is where most of the action is right now. We like it that way because no threats to land. There is a trough we're monitoring here over Cuba and the Bahamas, not going to flare up into anything. We do have some storms over Central America that will possibly congeal into a system in the Pacific here next week. And then very quiet over the eastern Atlantic, although there is going to be a couple of waves. There are going to be a couple of waves that move off the coast here that we do need to keep an eye on. The European model says there is a slight chance that one or two of these could become a tropical storm, but we're talking next weekend and beyond. So still some time to watch at this point. Nothing threatening the U.S. at this point, so we're okay with that right now. The Canadian model is the one that's been leading the charge on development. We get into next week and we see slow development maybe to the east of the islands here around this time next week, and then another system to watch next weekend that could become a tropical storm if you believe this run of the Canadian. You can see it's already making that turn, so probably not a U.S. threat at this point, but maybe a named storm. The next one is Emily. I've been waiting for Emily for about a month here. We may finally get it. We may not. We'll have to keep an eye on that for you guys. In the Pacific, busy as it can get. Hawaii's okay right now, but this is Hurricane Dora. It's weakened some, but still holding its own. I would show you a zoomed in picture, but there's been issues with the transmission of tropical data, so we can't pull up a zoomed in view on tropical tidbits, but more on that later. I don't have time to get into it. But here's the next system that will likely become a depression and then a storm here over the next couple of days. Already south of the Baja and no threat to land. Behind it, gradual development expected as well. So the Eastern Pacific is hopping. Here's Dora, 110 mile per hour winds, now down to a Category 2 storm, crossing the date line here this afternoon and will be a hurricane and technically a typhoon at that point. But it is expected to weaken and make a turn northward into the northwestern Pacific. Here's a look at the ensembles, and you can see here's our next likely storm here by early next week, and then another storm which will be more of a potential threat to the Mexican Riviera towards the end of next week. So two potential named storms here, maybe even three, if this area here tries to form in the Pacific. Here's a look at the GFS model that'll show you here's the first storm, likely a tropical storm here by Tuesday. Here's the next one, possibly or likely a tropical storm, and then hurricane by Wednesday. And the GFS is really, really intense with this system. I don't know if it's going to be that strong, but 933 millibar major hurricane next Friday south of the Baja. Keep an eye on it in the Baja. This model run does take it right up there, and moisture heading into California by the 22nd of August. But it's one run of the GFS, and I'm sure it's going to change. You can see, by the way, another system. Don't even look at the Atlantic side here. I know we're seeing something coming in here. Well, all right, let's take a look. Let's take a look, because I know it's going to change. How's that sound? Here is a look at the Western Atlantic. And here is the GFS developing a wave over the Bahamas into a tropical storm hitting Florida on the 23rd. But folks, that's 11 days away, and it's one run of the GFS. And we can even take a look at the run before, and you can see there's nothing there. So nothing to freak out about at this point. But the GFS loves to start taking things and developing them quickly. And until something forms, we're not going to have a great handle on that. I need to see more development on other models before I go nuts with it. This is Typhoon Land. Fortunately, it has weakened. It was 130 mile per hour, very strong typhoon this time yesterday, now down to 100 miles per hour. Will likely keep that strength coming into central Japan, not far from Osaka here, fortunately west of Tokyo, but there's a lot of population in here. Osaka, Nagoya, Shizuoka, all these areas are going to be in this threat zone here, and could get hit by at least tropical storm force wind, but likely even typhoon force wind and a lot of rain. You can see, though, this storm has weakened. It moved away from Iwo Jima and has brought in some dry air that's gotten entrained into it. Still a powerful storm, but not what it was yesterday. But it is going to continue and take a track northwestward right to the middle of Japan. Here's where the models take that right across the middle of Japan here, and eventually weakening and recurving out to sea. And that could eventually cause some interesting undulations in our jet stream in the U.S. here in a few weeks, which could have tropical ramifications. So I appreciate y'all's time today. A little bit later video today. I needed some sleep. Got to sleep in after 6. That was great. Usually I'm up before 5. But no video tomorrow. I'm going to be resting, enjoying time with my family. Next week, we'll have another video on Monday and probably on Tuesday before I get to work travel. But I do encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to Josh's Severe Weather, I am a meteorologist. I try to keep the hype out of things. I realize the graphics are eye-catching. That is by design, but my goal is to do my best to prepare you all for severe weather, tropical weather, winter weather, extreme temperatures. So I do urge you to subscribe and share with your friends. I do also have a membership channel, $9.99 a month. If you are a weather enthusiast and you really want to support me, or you just want faster responses or more detailed forecasts, I'm happy to provide those for you all. It's really just 33 cents a day. I just encourage you. It helps me grow my reach here and lets me do a little bit more. This is not really a money-making venture for me. I've got a full-time job, but obviously having more would be great so I can bless other people, because they do need that. And speaking of blessing, God has blessed me with this gift as a meteorologist. As a Christian man, I've accepted Christ, who continues to bless me in many, many ways, and I pray that he blesses you. I've been called to share the good news, and I'm going to read a quick passage because that's what I've been led to do here today. Psalm 1, Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Strong words here from David here, Psalm 1. Listen, I went through 30 years of my life as a non-believer, and I had some very dark times. I was doing some things I shouldn't be doing, treating people poorly mainly, but abusing myself for that matter. I was in a dark place, but thank the Lord, he brought my wife into the picture. He brought people into my picture who were able to kind of lead me towards a godly life. I was able to accept Christ when I was 30. It was Easter Sunday, 2013. It's now 2023. Fast forward 10 years. I've finally gotten some courage to help lead other people and just encourage other people. And I realize you're going to watch this video and it may or may not resonate with you. You may just say, look, I just wanted the weather. Now you're talking about God. You've lost me. And you know what? I apologize if that's the case. I'm not trying to push people away, but at the same time, I'm here to please God. I'm here to be blessed by God, and there is eternal life. And those who know the Lord shall know that way of the righteous, but the ways of the ungodly shall perish. I just don't want to perish. In the end, I'm going out on faith that God is going to lead me to my Savior, Jesus Christ, and I can live with him eternally. And I just want to pray for you if you are struggling with knowing what's next on our short time on earth. It may be 60, 80, 90 years. We're here to make a difference, but none of that matters in the end to Jesus. He wants you to trust in him that you can live with him eternally. And I just need to share that good news with you today because that is powerful. That is what a lot of us are searching for in life. It's like the fear of death is there, and we all fear death, but having the joy and knowing that there's more afterwards is what drives me to do what I do every day. And I just pray that it does for you as well. So if you'd like for me to pray for you, I'm happy to do that. But I hope you all have a blessed weekend. And if you're in the enhanced risk area here later today, please have multiple ways of receiving warnings. I really pray that you are safe and that damage is minimal here today. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. See you all on Monday.